Welcome back to Mix Machines. Today's episode, you already see that where we left off was this rotating assembly left in here. I took that off camera. Something you already seen, already did. So I was like, I'll just go tear it down, get it ready just so we could put it back together for this video. But as I was taking it apart, I ran into my number 2 cam bearing. So it'd be my bearing right here. Number 2 for my cam. So first, I'm going to show you. First, I'll show you. This is a brand new one. This is my brand new number 2 bearing. See how beautiful it is? Very shiny, very nice. This here is my number 2 bearing that I just pulled out. Now, all I could see is what's down here when I was looking into it. I could not see the top of it. And why is that important? Because, well, I'll show you. Look at that. It's got chunks missing out of it. I'm surprised it didn't eat up and destroy my cam looking like that. So, that is definitely what you don't want to see on your bearings. But with that, I'm going to knock out the rest of them and we're ready to clean this thing all down off camera because that's going to take a bit. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to be ready to put it back together. But yeah, I just wanted to show you. That is no bueno. A little side-by-side comparison of what it should look like in the new one and what it does look like in the old one. Alright, so with that, putting this one back on my box so it doesn't get misplaced. I wanted to show you how badly my cam bearing was damaged. So I was not expecting that because the cam I took out of it is quite nice. And the cam I took out of it before wasn't scarred up or anything like should have been with the bearing like this. So either it became like this because I put a different cam with this bearing and not the matching cam. So if I had put that cam and we were trying to run it, it probably would have been fine. Or if it looked like this, it would have been fine if it did a catastrophic failure eventually. All it took was it to flake up a little bit and get squished in there and that would have been done. Yep, same thing with our number 3 bearing. It's starting to flake up top where I couldn't see it. Well, I could. I just have to look harder. On to the next one. Yep. Same with this one. It's chunked out real bad. Like I said, with damage like that, I'm surprised that my cam isn't completely destroyed and eaten out. Very surprised. I'm going to be blowing air through all of my holes, try and get all my oil galleys and everything blown and clean out because of the oil we had, which is quite full of metal. In order to clean everything out, and as soon as I'm done and ready, I'm going to bring you back and we're going to start putting this thing back together. Starting with the cam bearings. So, until then, I'll see you in a while. Well, for me it'll be a while. For you, it'll be seconds. Through movie magic. This is the next cam bearing we're putting in. Right here, so it has the one little galley hole. They all only have one other than your number 1. Your number 1 cam bearing has 2. So, for a little visualization here, I have my phone there. And we want our oil galley at 8 o'clock. So like just like that. So your clock is there. 8 o'clock is right here, right where our early galley is. We'll take that. We're going to mark 12 o'clock. So, there's our 12. Here's our 8. That's where we want it. So we're going to go 8 o'clock, facing it, looking at the engine. You're then here's the installing tool piece. You're going to put that on there. Put that down. You're going to slide it on your cam stool bar. Install the tool. You're going to line your 12 o'clock mark with your Oli galley here. That's your 12 o'clock. That's lined up. And then you're just going to tap it in. Alright, then you think you're about in the right spot. You pop the tool off. And you check. Looks like you go just a little bit more. You check again. That looks nice and even. All the way around. That looks good. Alright, so we move on to the next one. Alright, so this one I'm going to give you the complete overview of the tool. So you have the removing and disremoving tool that slides into your bearing just like that. First thing you make sure, 8 o'clock, your 12 o'clock mark. You slide it on just like that. And then you got the turn it sideways, flip it around again. You line your 12 o'clock mark, your oil galley. You set it up. And you tap it in. Alright, so you got the other side here. This goes against your number 1, so you do your number 1 last always. This is tapered. So I slide it down there. It goes to the center of the hole, so it keeps your tool straight, so it pushes your bearing in straight, hopefully. Make sure you're pretty much even on both sides, and you're in. You're ready to go to the next one. after you get your cam bearings in, it's very important to check your cam bearings. And how do you do that? Well, I would suggest taking an old cam that you have, like my old cam here, the one we just destroyed through all the loops on. Like I said, where the rides on the cam bearings is still absolutely fine. There's no issues with it. So what we're going to do, alright, so after a little finessing, adjustments, my back one wasn't far back enough. My number 6, that's what would give you my issue. Now it's in there. I can easily turn it by hand with the cam gear, but not with just a bolt in it, which is fine. It's still a little tighter. The snug fit, and that's what you're looking for. You want to be able to spin it by hand, even if it is by hand with just the cam gear on, the timing gear. So that's good. Now we'll move on to the next. Alright, so after that, we now go to our main bearings for our crank. Here's a set I have. We got it from Summit. It's part of a whole kit. First we put in our bearing or thrust, and we'll do our next. And so, whole hole, make sure you put the right one in. Alright, so you sit in there, give it a little rotisserie. And you're next for the pieces. Alright, so the last clip you just saw, where he's torqued down my crank. So that's all torqued down, it's all nice. It's all set in and ready. And crank turns over easily by hand, which is absolutely what you want. So with that, we can move on to our next part, which is putting in our pistons and rods. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I did do new crankshaft journal bearings, the new crank bearings. They are the same size as the old ones, but just newer condition. So they're a little bit bigger, a couple thousandths bigger. And now this crank is still stock. It's not ground, it's not modified on the journals or any, so all the new bearings I'm getting are still for a stock Chevy. Same with my connecting rods that go here, my mains, and my cam and everything are all stock sizes still. Nothing is wiped out where it had to be ground out and oversized, even with my piston rings. So with that, I'm going to start putting my pistons in. So I'm going to clean off, I'm going to give a little detailed what I'm going to do with them real quick, and I'm going to get to it. I'm going to clean off the heads of my pistons, the tops of them, oil up the sides. We're going to put them in, put the new bearings in, put the caps on, get the nuts in, get the nuts on them, torque them down, and then we're going to give a spin of it, make sure it feels good on the crankshaft. And each one, if it feels good, we're going to move on to the next, do the next one, and keep going until we're done. With all that being said, so I'm ready to start put my pistons in. So using sealed power. This here is a set for my connecting rods. Now you can see I blend it all off on the top already. I'm not going to put as much oil as I did last time because that was a little bit too much. So I'll just put enough there just to make sure. That, we're going to make sure my rings are set correctly. So just like that, I'm going to keep moving along and I'll be back once I'm done. So I'll see you then. So we have finished putting all of my pistons in and everything. Get all the new bearings, everything turns over real nice and smooth, and I set it up so I can do my cam next. So up next is my new cam. Emphasis on new. We got a brand new cam for it. Now, it's not a stock cam. It is the Summit Racing Cam of a 1103. So it's pretty much the biggest cam you get without going to the next, without getting a bigger torque converter. So it is a 288 to intake and 298 exhaust duration cam. So that is what we're going to be using next. So this is what we're going to be using now, since our original cam and the motor was wiped out. It was missing a few lobes, so it was no good. And then we got our other stock cam, which was out of another engine, and the lifters not being compatible with the new lifters, not being compatible with the material it's made out of, end up destroying the lifters and that stock cam. So now we're running this one. And I will be using the assembly lube it came with. So let's install it. Okay. So I put a little dab of grease on every little lope and bearing. I'm just going to give it a nice surface. And grease of the lubricant all the way around. And I'm going to start putting it in. Yeah, and just like that, our new cam's installed. And I made sure I went through, I wiped had a nice coat of grease all over our engine cam lubricant all the way around on each one. And I could easily turn the cam over by hand without even the gear where I needed the gear with my other one. That's exactly what you want. So at this point, I'm ready to put my timing cover on, or my timing gear on. This cam lines up the same way the stock cam does. You just put it on, you get it lined up with your marks, it should be right there. You're ready to put your chain on. And the torque spec for this is 18 to 20 foot-pounds. Right there, top dead center. We're going to give it a couple turns around, a couple rotations. Make sure they meet right back at top dead center. So they just pass, so just keep turning, go down now. So we're all good there. After that, we're ready to put our covers back on and flip it over. Oh, you gotta put our oil pump on first. Which my kit did come with a new oil pump, but I'm just gonna use the old one. The old one was working great. I had no issues with it, so I'm gonna stick with that one. Bolt that one on, torque it down real quick. And then we're gonna put our pans on. Front timing cover and our oil pan. And then from there, we're going to flip it over, make sure everything's all clean off and ready to do our heads. So I'll be back once I'm ready to put my heads on. Alrighty, so I got my head all clean off. I got my new gasket on there and ready to, so I'm just ready for my head. Head's right there. I'm going to grab it and put it on. I already got all my bolts lubricated and ready, oil, greased, whatever the stuff it came with on there. So set it on, get my bolts in, and torque her down. Alright, got them all torqued down. I'm ready to put in my lifters now. So for the lifters, I'm going to put the lubricant that came with the cams on the bottom and give it a nice thick little layer of the grease. And then for the outside, I'm going to put some oil on it. And put that in. Alright, so I don't know where the camera died at, so exactly where I left off, but I pretty much have a little base adjustment so I know all my valves will open once I'm running it. I have this intake on, it's not bolted down at the moment. I have it just set on to keep dirt and stuff out, keep it clean. Other than that, I'll set my valve covers here once I'm done talking to you. And that is my engine. It's ready to go back in, and it's going to go back in naturally aspirated for right now until I get my valves adjusted, my carburetor adjusted so I have a base when I put my superchargers back on. With all that being said, he's ready to go back in. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. That's going to be it for this video. And that's going to be it for this video. I hope you liked it, and that's going to be it for this video. I hope you liked and enjoyed. As always, if you'd be so kind to like, comment, subscribe. Until then, see you next one.